Is Tupac's estate really still in a legal fight? It's 26 years after he died. But in fact, yes, there's still a few things going on. My name is Andrew Ayers. I'm an estate planning and business law attorney with offices in Edina, Minnesota and New York City. And today we're going to look at a celebrity estate that I wasn't expecting to see in the news in 2022, but apparently here we are. So back in 1996, yes, 26 years ago, Tupac Shakur was killed in Las Vegas. Now, when I first saw a story the other week about a celebrity estate back in the news, Tupac was about the last person on that list that I thought would be the estate at issue. But what has happened is there's an NFT that's been created from the artwork for his Don Killuminati album, which was Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory. Now, I wasn't thinking back that long ago that there'd even be an NFT. I mean, how do you make an NFT 26 years later? Well, of course, the original artist has made an NFT of the artwork, and that's become at the center of this fight between Tupac's estate and the artist and the auction house that decided to sell it anyway. So back when Tupac died, there was no such thing as an NFT, but what there was estate planning. Now, in his defense, Tupac was only 25 years old when he died. He was living his life, he was making music, he's got these great music videos, he's all over the country, and he apparently never got around to making a will. And while it probably was also the last thing on his mind at the time, by not having a will, it's created quite a bit of fighting between his family after he's gone. Now, the current issue, of course, has nothing to do with the NFT, which wasn't in existence back when he died, but now here we are dealing with it, and an estate would have sorted all these issues out. So what I found when I was reading is that they took the NFT from the cover art, and the dispute centers around whether or not the artwork should be part of Tupac's estate. Now, the estate is being run currently by a foundation set up by Tupac's mother, who has now also since died. So we're really going down the list trying to figure out who's in charge of what when it comes to somebody's estate. We've seen very similar situations out here in Minnesota with Prince's estate, who he also died without a will, and we've had the federal government trying to come in and figure out what kind of taxes they're entitled to, and then also family members trying to figure out who should be controlling Prince's catalog. So when we look at performers, especially musicians and other artists who leave behind intellectual property and things that can be sold and have value, it really shows the importance of needing an estate plan. Now, a lot of my clients, of course, are going to see this and say, listen, I don't record music, I'm not like Tupac, I don't need this whole estate plan. Well, the issues raised by Tupac's fight are issues that can affect you and your family. You can actually end up with your family having a fight for years and years after you're gone if we don't have any kind of an estate plan. If we go back to what's going on with Tupac, the first thing he could have done was create a will. Simply creating a will saying, here's what happens to my estate when I'm gone, would have solved probably 95% of this. You would have had a good idea at the time he was gone whether or not that artwork was part of his estate or not. You would have had somebody appointed who can then take care of the estate and be the one in charge of the finances. The other interesting twist we've seen here is that Tupac's mother set up a company after he was gone to manage the rights to his music and his other artwork. This is also something you can do. You can, whether it's a company or whether it's a trust, we can set up a planning mechanism where these kinds of future interests that will be kicking off money can be managed by somebody. In the case of a trust, we have a trustee who manages it. In the case of a company, we can set up an LLC. Now, as we're coming off of summer, one of the common things that we do out here is we go to cabins. And if you've got that family cabin, let's say you rent it out for part of the summer and your family uses it for the rest, that's a prime opportunity to use an LLC to protect that asset. So what happens when you die is instead of having to put your family cabin through the probate court, the LLC will continue to operate and you can pass the shares of that LLC on to the next generation. While your assets may not be the millions of dollars and all the fantastic songs that Tupac created, or Prince's catalog, or Aretha Franklin, or Tom Petty's estate fighting over who's going to control that music as they look to release the next Wildflowers album, what you're looking at here is a simple way to take your estate plan documents and say who's going to manage it and who gets any income from it. These are easily done. It's not a complex process. But when you look back at these stories like Tupac from 26 years ago, these things can still pop up. So you can probably guess this isn't something you want to try to do yourself. You can really leave behind a big headache for your family if you try to do this yourself and either create the wrong type of company, create an improper trust where it's not properly funded, or just not even do an estate plan. Now you're going to try to do it, but you're not really sure how to get it started. So the second way you can do it, better than do it yourself, is speak to professionals. Speak to your financial advisor, your accountant, speak to an estate planning attorney who can help you put together a plan for you and your legacy. If you'd like to get started, you can go to my website, andrewmayers.com, and there's going to be a red schedule a consultation button on the homepage. Click that button, you'll be taken to my calendar. We can set up a 15 or 20-minute legal strategy session to discuss where you are in the process and what are some next steps you can take. Your legacy may not be hundreds of rap songs like Tupac has, but your legacy is still worth protecting, and we want to make sure that that protection is in place.